What's going on, guys? It's Omniarch, and today I'm bringing you a brand new video where I'm going to be giving you my guide to Hermann in Rise of Kingdoms.
Yeah, 24/7, 365. We won't have no problems if my money on time. Did it by myself.
Now, before we jump into it, we got to talk about something real quick, okay? Let me crack open a cold one for you, ladies and gentlemen, and we're just gonna chat. Oh, this is so refreshing. It's not even alcoholic, it's just berry LaCroix. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that after Hermann, the only epic commanders that I haven't made dedicated videos for are Baibars and what's her name, Kiera. It's taking me such a long time to expertise her. I've also covered some of the legendary commanders that I have extensive experience with, but I definitely spend less money in this game than I think a lot of other Rise of Kingdoms YouTubers do, and so my commander lineup here is just not as powerful as some of the others. And so I'm gonna need suggestions from you guys as to what types of guides that you want me to make after I've finished talking about all of the commanders that I am currently comfortable talking about, right? Because there's a couple more, right? I said we have Baibars, we have Kiera. I also want to do some quicker videos about like Alex and a couple of other legendaries, maybe El Cid and things like that. But ultimately, right, I've covered a vast majority of the commanders in this game. And so if you guys could do me a huge favor, comment down below things that you're having trouble with in the game that you think I might be able to help with. I do want to make a guide for archer and a guide for infantry equipment. I made a video talking about cavalry equipment the other day. Not that many people seemed interested in that, but I do still want to cover those topics. But we've talked about, you know, I've made a beginner's guide, I've made a common mistakes guide, I've made a guide about Sunset Canyon, which is basically Lost Canyon. We've talked about Golden Kingdom, we've talked about KVK mistakes. So what haven't I covered? What have I not covered that you guys need help with? Comment down below. I do have KVK coming up in a couple of days, and I'm actually super low on resources for that. I don't mean resources in game, which I am a little bit low on them. I mean resources in real life. What's in the box? This is my snack box. I've got like coffee cakes, we've got ding dongs, I don't even know what these are. We've got Twinkies, we've got Rice Krispie treats, we've got Slim Jims, and I'm running low, right? We even have oatmeal cream pies, and we've got some cosmic brownies in here. I have this for my stream, but also these are my KVK supplies, right? Everybody knows that the winner of a war goes to the players with the best snacks. I don't, that's probably not actually true, but it's important, okay? It's important to have amazing snacks to sustain yourself when you're pulling those all-nighters playing KVK. So I was thinking about doing a vlog where I go and I refill my snack box with a bunch of the most important snacks when you're gaming. It doesn't even have to be for KVK. That's an idea that I have for a video, but let me know if you think that's an absolute garbage idea or if it's something that you think would be fun. All right, Omniarch, stop with your stupid rambling intro. I get it. Let's go talk about Hermann, right? Let's talk about Hermann. Now, Hermann is a commander that I've talked a lot about before. I've mentioned him in my free-to-play archer guide. I've also mentioned him in my Kusunoki guide and my garrison video. I mentioned him as well. I think he's even the thumbnail for that video. So we've talked a lot about Hermann, but I want to just make a dedicated guide for those of you who are just looking specifically for information about this commander. So first, he is the commander that you get from Germany. If you start the game with Germany, you're gonna have Hermann right off the bat. You also can get him from the Germany events. You also can get him from holiday events by basically converting your universal epic commander sculptures into Hermann. If you complete this event, you'll get 100 universals, so that's a lot of skills that you can put on Hermann. You can also get him from the metal store, from gold keys, silver keys, all the normal places that you can get the rest of the epics. Now, just like Kusunoki, Hermann is an archer, garrison, and skill commander, but he is pretty different from Kusunoki despite having the same trees. With that being said, let's talk about the skills on this commander. His first skill is definitely his best skill. It's called Ambush, and it deals a massive damage factor of 1150 to the target and decreases their target range by 100 and silences the target for 2 seconds. This is definitely the best skill on Hermann, and in fact, this is the highest single target damage factor in the epic tier. Out of all the epic commanders, this is the highest, which is crazy because reducing the enemy rage by 100 and silencing them for 2 seconds, the way that silence works is that the enemy is not able to use their active skills during that time. Now if we take a look at other commanders in the epic tier like Osman the First, his first skill deals 1100, right, which is just a damage factor. That's all it is, which is nuts. So the fact that Hermann deals even more damage and he reduces the rage by 100 and he silences them for 2 seconds, totally busted, right? This is super good. This is a very good active skill. Definitely get this to 5 before you give him a second, third, or fourth star. His second skill is called Military Genius, which increases archer units attack by 10% and march speed by 10%. Now this is the skill where he's falls off a little bit from Kusunoki, which I'm going to be drawing some parallels between the two because they're both same trees, same troop type, same rarity. Kusunoki actually gets 30% of archer stats, and that's attack and defense, whereas if we look at Hermann, he gives you 10% attack, which, you know, is arguably the worst stat of the 3, and he increases march speed, which is good, but really only 10% of this skill is actually a part of the damage formula, right? And so 30% of battle stats on Kusunoki, 10% of battle stats on Hermann, and also a 10% like utility stat, right? It is still useful to have high march speed, but the problem here is that archers are countered by cavalry, and cavalry commanders and cavalry units just tend to be faster than archers anyway. So this 10% march speed bonus, I don't know if that's enough to compensate to the types of armies that are probably going to be targeting Hermann in the open field. So in this instance, I would much rather have Kusunoki's 30% archer stats as opposed to the 10% here. But again, his active skill very good, and so I can maybe understand why they wouldn't want to make this second skill busted as well. His third skill is called Legend of the Teutoburger. I totally butchered that, I'm so sorry. Increases garrison and watchtower attack by 7% when this commander is serving as garrison commander. I like this skill. Again, it is attack, which I would rather it be like defense or health or something like that when we're talking about being in the garrison. And again, watchtower, I've mentioned this in other videos, watchtower buffs aren't that useful. The watchtower just dies in like 4 turns in a battle maybe, and so the buff to the watchtower is not really relevant. It's literally just mainly a 7% buff to your entire garrison in terms of attack. It's okay, it's good. I think I prefer other garrison skills on other commanders. Like Kusunoki increases counterattack damage, which is good. I think if you're getting attacked by multiple people, this is probably just way better. And Sun Tzu reduces damage taken by 7%, which I also think is just much better. So looking at this third skill, it's okay for being on your wall, but I don't think it's the best in the epic tier. And finally, we can look at the final skill, which is called National Hero. This increases normal attack damage of troops by 10%, and attacks have a 10% chance to grant an additional 100 rage. This is a really good skill actually. You're just getting straight up more normal attack damage, which is nice, but you also have a rage engine here, which is really good. With a powerful active skill on Hermann, having a rage engine is very important, so it's nice that he has one built in and doesn't have to rely on one that comes from maybe his secondary commander. In terms of the order of skills he should upgrade, I would say bring this first skill to 5, then bring him to 2 stars and get this skill to 5, then bring him all the way to 4 stars and hope that you get this last skill to 5 before the third skill. I think the last skill is just better. And then let's talk about his expertise. Literally all that his expertise does is increases the damage factor on his primary skill. So prior to being expertised at just 5 skill points, his active skill deals a damage factor of 750. It gets a really nice buff up to 1150, which is again super good for the epic tier. So comparing and contrasting to Kusunoki, Kusunoki will remove the debuffs on your army. He also deals AoE damage, and his damage is mostly over time with additional damage factor. Hermann does huge damage to one target, silences them, reduces their rage, and also has a built-in rage engine. However, Kusunoki has more archer stats. Now we're going to talk about some of the pairs for Hermann, and I think a lot of them are going to be pretty obvious to you guys if you've watched a lot of my commander guides, but it's worth noting that even though I'm comparing and contrasting the two, of course they are great commanders to pair together. With that being said, let's talk about talent builds, and I'm actually going to show you the talent builds that I have on my Kusunoki, because again they are the same trees, and my Hermann is only level 59 whereas Kusunoki is 60, so it's going to be a little bit better and easier for you guys to follow along. So this is my first build. This build is a pure archer build. This is a build you obviously want to do with all archers, and really any build that I show you here is going to want to have full archers just to maximize the amount of stats that you get from Hermann. Now, one change that I would make to this build is I would actually remove the 3 points in latent power. It depends on who you're pairing Hermann with. If you're pairing with Kusunoki, maybe you want to leave this, but I would say for the most part you want to remove these 3 points, and I would put 1 more point into heraldic shield, and then I would put the other 2 points into health of all troops. I think that's just overall a better build, but regardless, this is obviously a full archer build, and you're getting a lot of great talents here. I actually think the archer talent tree is very, very good. Venomous Sting over here is just amazing. Obviously you're getting 8% active skill damage for both primary and secondary. You also get whistling arrows, which only has a 10% chance of going off, so it can go off randomly, but if it does go off during skill damage, you get a 25% buff on that, which is insane, right? And this is giving you a 25% damage increase for all types of attacks, so normal attack, counterattack, everything like that. But again, this is going to be most useful if it times up with an active skill, which is, you know, amazing, but it is pretty random. So it's worth getting, it's worth talking about because it is good, but it's a bit random. Sometimes you'll see just damage spikes that come out of nowhere, and I kind of prefer consistency, but it's still good when you take the average across all fights that you'll do with this talent build. Now, Phoenix Tail arrows will give you some little bit of extra damage factor, which is nice. You'll get Razor Sharp, which gives you some nice additional rage, as well as Burning Blood over here. You get some nice attack as well as health with armed and armored. And you also get arrows knocked, which will deal nice damage if you do end up dropping below 50% in the open field. You obviously don't want to do that, but if you do end up getting caught out there. And also we have to talk about Rejuvenate, another rage engine. Amazing. I love that on Hermann because he already has one. And then of course Tactical Mastery increases active skill damage, which is just amazing. So this is a really great build with the modifications that I talked about before. Obviously full archers. Let's talk about another possible build. This one maximizes rage regeneration. So here we see we removed the points in latent power. We went all the way up to feral nature, because not only do you get rejuvenate, but feral nature just gives you another chance to get 100 rage, which is super good. That comes out to about, I think, 10 rage per second or something like that, because in theory this is going to pop once every 10 turns, so 100 divided by 10 is 10 rage. Obviously that's not actually how it works, but that's pretty much how it would technically be mathematically over time. You do still get Venomous Sting, and you do still get the Razor Sharp rage generation, which is amazing. And of course you get full quiver as well, so you get a ton of archer stats still with this build, but it's focused primarily on rage regeneration. So whichever one of these two builds you prefer, I do think that you get more stats for archers by going this route, but this one obviously you regenerate more rage. So it depends on who you're pairing Hermann with, but whichever build you go with is going to be very good. I think the differences between the two are relatively minor, because the stats that you lose out over here, the damage output's going to be increased with active skill damage. So it really depends on who you're pairing with, but really I think they're pretty similar if you were to do the math. I probably would lean more towards this build, honestly, but again, it depends. We're going to talk about some different commander pairings and where this might be a little bit more useful. Finally, let's talk about a garrison build, right? Because this is technically something that Hermann can do. I talked about him in my garrison video. We go all the way to the end of the skill tree. The reason for this is because we're picking up a lot of talent points off on the sides. These little points are going to apply to all of your troop types rather than just archers, and that's why we didn't go very far into the archer tree, because only a quarter of your troops theoretically are going to be archers if your city is getting hit. We also went and got the front row of all of the talents here. We avoided the 2 watchtower talents because, again, I think watchtower buffs are very weak, and then we went and grabbed attack for all troops, defense for all troops, and health for all troops, because again, it's for all troops. Now, we did go up here and grab arrows knocked, because if you notice, this says when you're reduced to 50% strength, all attack of all troops is increased by 9%, which is not just for archers. This is literally worded saying all troops, right? So all the troops in your entire city will be buffed with a 9% attack increase. That's amazing because when you're getting rallied as a city, as a garrison, you're probably going to drop below 50% strength unless you're online and you teleport away at that point. So this is a nice buff to have. And then finally, we also have rapid fire, because this increases normal attack damage by 1.5%, which again, this is not specific for archers, so this is good to have when you're on your wall. Now you could make the argument that maybe you should take the 3 points out of here, take a couple of points out of feral nature, take away all these little tiny points over here, and then make your way up to know thy enemy if you think that your city is going to get swarmed. Now that's definitely a possibility, but again, and I've mentioned this in other videos before, if you're using an epic on your wall such as Hermann and you're a lower power free-to-play player, you might just take a single rally and that's it, right? So it's up to you however you think you're going to get attacked. If you think that a T5 player is just gonna swarm you with 5 armies, then yes, definitely go and get Know Thy Enemy. It will help you a lot more than the build that you see here. But if you're just gonna take a single rally, then this is probably a better option. Oh man, this is really coming in clutch right now. This is just it's saving me, man. It's saving me. All right, let's talk about some commander pairings for Hermann. Now obviously we talked about in the talent builds, right, he's gonna be a full archer commander. So any commander that has full archers or archer skills, right, is going to be a good choice for Hermann. Now that means he could be paired with Yi Seong-Gye, right? Yi Seong-Gye is a great secondary for pretty much everybody. However, the problem with this pairing is that Hermann is going to be targeted in the open field very quickly, right? Hermann is a very squishy commander. By that I mean he has a 10% attack buff, no defense increase for archers, no health increase for archers. He's an epic commander, right? He's very squishy in the open field, plus people want to get rid of Yi Seong-Gye. So you could do a Hermann Yi Seong, but just be careful because he will be targeted very fast. You also could do a Hermann Boudica if you're going to play very early game. Now theoretically you would want a full archer build because you're going to do archer talents, but it's worth noting that Boudica doesn't care which troop types, and honestly it really is up to you. But you do want to go, again, if you're doing the full archer talent tree, you absolutely want Hermann primary with that archer build. The reason that you could do Boudica in the very early game if you're free to play is because she also deals huge single target damage factor and also reducing the rage by 100. So you're having a huge rage reduction with this pairing, which is really good. This is a nice single target debuffing pair. Plus it's decreasing the attack of that enemy by 25% for 2 seconds. She also has a chance to increase the entire damage of the army, which is great, and she heals and restores rage, which that's another rage engine to stack on top of Hermann's rage engine, which is really good, right? So this is a good pairing. Again, very early on pairing because there's not that many archer stats, right? And so you're gonna have way lower stats than the other armies that you fight in the open field. But if you think you can be sneaky and not get targeted in the open field, which again with this pairing probably unlikely, but you could be doing some nice rage debuffing. You can be regenerating your rage at a crazy rate with some healing. I think this is a cool pairing for very early game. You could technically do like a Sun Tzu primary, Hermann secondary. I don't think that's a great pairing, but there's nothing really inherently wrong with it. I just think that Sun Tzu could be paired with better commanders overall. Now of course we could do a Kusunoki primary, Hermann secondary, or vice versa. I really do think Kusunoki should be the primary in this instance because he will remove all negative effects from your army, and then Hermann will hit them with his big single target damage factor, which is just better, right? If you're gonna have debuffs on your army removed, you want them removed before you deal damage with something like Hermann's primary. So I think Kusunoki primary, Hermann secondary is probably the best way to go. Of course, if you do build Kusunoki with the full skill tree, it's also worth noting that the clarity talent here is going to increase the skill damage by 6% for Hermann's big single target damage factor. So that's also worth noting, and why Hermann might be better as a secondary. It just depends on your build for Kusunoki, but in general I do think that he's better as the secondary slot. This is going to be the go-to pairing, right, for free-to-play players. Kusunoki and Hermann, just a really great pair, because the biggest downside of Hermann is that he doesn't have that many archer stats, but Kusunoki brings that to the table, and Hermann stacks on top of that another 10% archer attack with some march speed that Kusunoki doesn't have. So this is a really great pairing for free-to-play players. It's really the best pairing that they can do. Of course there is Kiera, we'll talk about her in just a second. A really interesting pairing you could do would be a Hermann primary, Osman secondary with a full archer build. Now the reason that this is totally possible and also interesting is because we talked about how they both have the 2 highest single target damage factors in the epic tier, right? And so you smash them with Hermann's single target damage factor, then a couple turns later Osman smashes him with his huge damage factor. But wait, there's more. Every time an active skill goes off, Osman hits them with a Sword of Osman skill attack. So that means that you have Hermann hit him for 1150, then Osman hit him for 400, then Osman hits him again for 1100, then he hits him again for 400, right? So we're doing a ton of single target damage factor with Osman, plus you're gonna bring 10% more archers, right? Which is gonna be really good because they're all gonna be getting the benefits of the archer talent tree from Hermann. So this is a really interesting pairing. Plus Hermann has rage regeneration, which is what Osman wants. He has it in the archer tree, he has it in the skill tree, and he also has it on his 4th skill. Now the downside of using Osman as a secondary is that he doesn't offer anything to archers, so he's a very generic commander. He's not buffing the archer stats like somebody like Kusunoki, for example, would do that, or somebody even like Kiara would do that as well. So it's a very interesting build, but I think there are other better options. But you could totally try it, right? Early games, see what you can do with this. I think this would be a really interesting pairing because you're just going to be rapid firing just massive skill damage at a single target. I think that would be interesting to see how that goes. Next we got to talk about El Cid, right? I think an El Cid is a great pairing. Now if you're free to play, you could have like a 5-5-1-1 El Cid. That would be a pretty decent pairing. The reason for this is because El Cid is basically the legendary version of Hermann, and having a Hermann primary, El Cid secondary effectively gives you a 3-second silence, and 3 seconds is, it's like 30% of the time that the enemy is fighting in the open field. How do I even explain that? So under normal rage regeneration requirements, every 10 turns ish you're going to get enough rage to basically do an active skill, but 3 out of those 10 turns, technically speaking, they're going to be silenced or disabled or something like that, right? Because you have the 2 seconds from Hermann, so 1-2, and then on the turn that they would stop being silenced, they're actually hit by El Cid's 1 second disable, which is an even more powerful version of the silence, right? So silence has to do with active skills and not shooting off those active skills during that time. The disable is not only can't they activate their active skills, but they also can't do any normal attack damage for that single turn. So this is a really unique build that is only possible with a Hermann primary, El Cid secondary. There's no other way to get a 3-second silence in the entire game. So this is a very interesting pairing where you're just basically constantly stunning the enemy for 3 seconds at a time, and that really can have a profound effect even as a free-to-play player. Like I said, you would really want to shoot for a 5-5-1-1 El Cid. Technically you could do that combo with a 5-1-1-1 El Cid, but his second skill is just good, and I would want you guys to get this to 5 before bringing him any farther. Plus again, single target damage factor, right? And it's worth noting that Hermann's single target damage factor is better than El Cid's, and El Cid's is legendary, right? Now he also has that 10% chance of dealing another 1000 damage factor, so El Cid is still a good commander. He is a legendary, so he's hard to level up, but he's basically the legendary version of Hermann, and so having them as a pair is really good. El Cid 5-5-1-1 that's a secondary would be decent, plus you're getting an extra 10% archer defense, still less archer stats than if you were to use an expertise to Kusunoki, worth noting. But I think that unique combo is something that is worth trying out. Now obviously Kiara is another really great option for Hermann for the same reason that Kusunoki is. Now it's worth noting that Kiara's primary skill deals more skill damage to the enemy when she's expertised than Kusunoki's does, but she loses out on the removing debuff effects, right? So you're trading off the removal of debuffs for an increase in AoE damage factor, which is nice. Again, that's with the expertise. Without the expertise, she actually does less damage, technically speaking, if you're hitting 3 targets, because she does reduce each additional target by 15% damage. So keep that in mind. But she also gives you 20% of archer stats, which is less than Kusunoki as well. However, she also has the 4th skill, literally gives you a 10% chance to increase skill damage dealt by up to 80% for 3 seconds, which is basically, it's very similar to Sun Tzu's final skill, right? So this is sort of a hybrid between Kusunoki and Sun Tzu ish, right? And so the increase in skill damage is going to be really useful for Hermann. So you could also pair Kiara with Hermann as well. Great pairing. I don't know who should be primary, who should be secondary. Honestly, I don't think it really matters unless you are building full skill tree, in which case you might want Hermann primary, but I guess, yeah, because I guess you would want them maybe silenced right before Kiera's attack goes off. I don't know. I don't really think it matters too much. Now, of course, you could pair Edward of Woodstock or Tamiris, or Tamaris. I always pronounce that wrong. Or you could pair it with Ramses as well. Now we're talking about legendary commanders that as free to play, you're probably not going to either have or invest too heavily in. It's worth noting that a 5-1-1-1 Ramses is actually a decent commander, right? We talked about this in our free to play archer guide, so check that out if you have more questions about Ramses as a 5-1-1-1. Same thing with Edward though. Now the thing is that Edward, you really want him primary, so are you gonna have a primary as 5-1-1-1? I don't know, that just doesn't seem like a great investment to me in terms of legendary commander sculptures, but it's worth noting that you could obviously do these pairings as well. Now I'm not going to talk about equipment here because I will probably be making an archer equipment video very soon, but the long story short is you just want the most amount of archer stats for that commander as possible for the lowest amount of rarity, because those are the easiest to get. But keep an eye out for that archer equipment video. With that being said, guys, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, hopefully I have earned a subscription and a like on the video, and make sure you click that bell to be notified the next time that I upload a Rise of Kingdoms video. Don't forget to comment down below any more questions that you have about Hermann, or any suggestions that you have, things that you're having trouble with in Rise of Kingdoms that you want my insight on, or even just other guides to other games, maybe let's play videos I could totally do. I've been thinking about doing let's plays for like World of Warcraft or things like that, so definitely let me know in the comment section below other content that you want to see from me. As always, my social media links are in the description below, so my Instagram, my Twitter, my Discord, and my Twitch channel. I do live stream Rise of Kingdoms at least once a week, and that's a great way to stop by and ask me any questions that you have in the moment, so make sure you follow me over there and on Instagram and everything else. And as always, there's a link in the description below to download Rise of Kingdoms absolutely for free for your PC or your Mac. That's how I'm playing right now, and I noticed the least amount of crashes and issues playing on my PC than anywhere else. BlueStacks has been my favorite emulator for a long time, and again, it's free, so click that link in the description below to give it a try. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.